right. Welcome to the Bears Den, presented by WARR Media and SportsZone Chicago. I am Saul Rodriguez, joined by my co-host, as always, Joe Tanksley, who we see on all of our Bears coverage, as well as Sean Sierra, who's our head Bears reporter. And, of course, we are joined by our special guest, NBC Sports Chicago's draft analyst, Glynn Morgan. He's a recurring guest. We got him on. We've been working at it. We've been working hard, Glynn, to have you back on, and we finally got you. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm living a dream. At least that's what they tell me to say.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Thanks for coming. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain, man. I'm happy and excited to get started.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm here. H2BH. Happy to be here, bro. Happy to be here.
Hey, being here, half the battle. So, hey, you know what? That's a win in itself, Sean. So glad you're here. And yeah, we have a good show coming up. I mean, obviously we have, there's so much to talk about when it comes to the Bears. There's so many things going on. I mean, the latest news, and we were just talking about before we came on, is of course the fact that Justin Fields has unfollowed the Chicago Bears on Instagram. And I was telling Joe and Glenn, I was telling Joe and Glenn that, the Bears fans out there, the feelings are out. They have Justin Fields tributes already. There's sad TikToks and all this. It's they're feeling it. But we'll start with there, Glenn, because I wanted really to have you on here. One of the main reasons too is specifically not only just talk about the draft and what the Bears are going to do and all that, but the main thing is, of course, the talk of football right now. Honestly, after the Super Bowl, it felt like that's one of the things that people were like, "Hey, the Bears are on the clock." What they're going to do with the number one pick, and with that quarterback situation. And I think a lot of people already have seen your segment with Mark Carman from CHGO and, of course, NBC Sports Chicago, where you guys had probably one of the healthiest debates I've ever seen when it comes to this situation. Because, of course, on Twitter and all social media, people are getting personal. Like, it's wild. Yeah.
It's really nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty. I know. Like, you would think it's like Fields family members against Caleb. It's crazy. But, Glenn, kind of go, like, you don't have to get into all of it, but, like, really kind of what's your overall view or your overall opinion on what the Bears are going to do with that number one pick?
Because what ends up happening is people tell you what they want to have the Bears do, as opposed to what you think the Bears will actually do. It's two different questions or two different ways to look at it. What do I think the Bears will do? Well, Justin just unfollowed them. So, it's crazy. It's tough to say, man, because there's so many things that General Manager Pace has already done Poles has done to not even really tip his hand. You look at even hiring Shane Waldron, you could look at it both ways. You can look at it, Waldron wants to take the job because he wants a fresh quarterback that he can mold and that can be something that helps his resume grow and, put his own brand as far as this is how I was able to develop a quarterback, having somebody that wasn't already pre-developed by someone else. Then you can look at it the other way and say, well, he was able to take players who may have had certain questionable statistics and quarterbacking acumen and attributes and, redefine them, so to speak, or help them redefine themselves so that they can be beneficial. And obviously, Geno Smith is the poster boy for that, for that situation, to where I believe he had like a 69% passing percentage, almost 70% passing percentage completion rate, the first year under Waldron, and also became comeback player of the year, threw for 4,000 yards, so on and so forth. So you can look at it both ways, saying that, well, Justin Fields is someone who's very young. He did not have as much water under the bridge that Geno Smith had, and definitely, from all intents and purposes, we've seen a lot more amenable to coaching and not as much of an ego-driven person as Geno seemed to be when he first came out of West Virginia. So you can look at it both ways. So that doesn't really tell you anything. You can look at, Kerry Joseph being hired as a quarterback's coach and look at, dual threat type kind of athlete, blah, blah, blah. But again, that fits both quarterbacks too. I think as much as there's a divisiveness between Bear fandom, between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, when you really start breaking it down, they're a lot more similar than they are dissimilar in terms of the football, some of the football traits that they have and some of their pluses and their flaws. So what will the Bears do? I think the pressure is there, and it's a real pressure to draft Caleb because it being everyone's job, but primarily Poles' reputation on the line of how can you conceivably have passed on three quarterbacks, more or less. And I say three, you could even throw four. You could, at some point it'll be you passed on five quarterbacks. It'll keep adding up. You passed on, CJ and Bryce, and then it'll be Caleb, and then it'll be, Jaden Daniels. It'll be anybody else that has success that you didn't take because you had two back-to-back years of having the number one pick. No one's going to care about the nuances. We would care. Those of us who analyze things, those of us who look at it, those of us who are truth seekers in the sense of I want to see things in context. And that's not to disparage anybody else that just looks at things on the surface. It's just saying that some people care more than others about the fine details. At the end of the day, it's going to be the results that people are judged by. And that's probably a real thing Poles has to seriously consider. The question is, though, in doing that, how do you go about doing that? So I think the Bears are going to take Caleb. I think what they may do, and we focus so much on the quarterback situation, but there are other things that need to be considered and developed as well. And Shane Waldron also is very good at developing rookies in Seattle. You saw both both tackles, offensive tackles for Seattle develop. You also saw running backs develop, Kenneth Walker. You saw Smith and Jigba have a really good season last year too. So here's a person who is able to utilize the talent that's there. And that's something that we didn't see with a former OC. So I'm sensing there's going to be a lot of newness. And when you sense that you're going to restart, why would you not restart at the quarterback position? So I believe they're going to draft Caleb. I also believe that that's a lot of pressure to put on Caleb. It's a lot of pressure to put on Eberflus because Eberflus's job, for all intents and purposes, really is going to come down to the record this year that the team has, and no one's going to care why you're 8-9 and not 11-6. Okay, but how do you do that with a rookie quarterback? You can't expect C.J. Stroud to happen again. Lightning to strike twice doesn't really happen like that, and we're going to sense that Caleb's situation would be better if the Bears do take him. The situation would be better than what Justin was thrust into. So what do you do? So I think with the Bears, and it's the final answer to your question with a really short one, the long answer to a short question you just asked, I think when you look at free agents, you have to consider that Drew Lock will possibly sign here with the Bears as a free agent. That's someone who already knows the system, someone that can help. It's not just the quarterback, but the other players learn the system too, because he's a field general. He can help understand certain nuances of the offense, get them in the sets where they need to be, so on and so forth. And you have that veteran to help the rookie quarterback come along. Drew would probably agree to that because it gives him a year to start at least half the season. Caleb can be treated like we saw Mahomes. If you go back to Poles' growth and where he learned under KC, he saw how that happened with Mahomes, giving him a year. And we keep hearing the comparisons, fairly or unfairly, to Mahomes. Why not give him a Mahomes-like situation to grow into, and he being Caleb Williams? So you sign a free agent in Drew, sign him for 2 years, option, whatever the case might be. He's not going to cost you a whole bunch. He'll probably go up to maybe anywhere between 8 to maybe 10 million. And even with Caleb's rookie contract, you're talking like maybe 15 to 20 million combined, which is still very cheap comparatively when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. And that way Eberflus can sleep at night knowing that he at least has a quarterback and an offense that can work, and the administrator of that offense being Waldron, who can help facilitate and all the the things that kind of the bits and pieces where you need to iron some stuff out. Waldron's there. It's not like he's implementing some system he doesn't already know. It's his own system. So that's what I see the Bears doing. That's what drafting Caleb makes sense to me. That's how I can make sense of it. If they go a different way other than getting someone who can help Caleb so he doesn't have to be the starter starting out, then I think you're really playing Russian roulette. And I hate to make that kind of analogy, but I think you're gambling. You're really rolling the dice.
Yeah, I mean that definitely. There's many ways that you can go with it, and I think that's the thing that gets people talking the most, really. But Sean, what's your opinion not only on that, but just in general with like the whole thing, also with Fields and following? Like, do you think that's a big sign, or do you not put much stock into that at all?
It's apparently that's the thing that these guys do, and I get it. Eddie Jackson was the first, a few days ago, made a cryptic tweet talking about, new beginnings. I guess this is the precursor to what they're, what athletes, obviously athletes know if they've made the decision, then obviously the athletes know, the representation knows, and this is how they're letting everybody else know. If this does come to fruition, it's unfortunate, that they didn't give him a shot. It's crazy how they brought him into a situation that wasn't ideal to develop a quarterback, and then get mad because he's not developed. Okay, so it's unfortunate. So what the thing is that this guy is extremely talented, and I'm not taking it, and I'm not, because I'm pro Justin doesn't mean I'm anti Caleb. All right, I'm anti Caleb cult people. That's what I'm anti. All right, that's the issue. It's like Cub fan. I don't really dislike the Cubs. I just dislike the Cub fans.
Except for me, though.
Yeah, yeah, we'll go with that. And I got love for you, boss. And you know what? And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because if this plays out, and if it does, and if it goes the other way, then I'm gonna have to tell you that because I feel Poles is putting on a master's class in how to be a GM. He is putting on a master's class, and truth be told, I wouldn't doubt if they decided to keep Justin, if they told him to do that just for shits and giggles, just to throw people off. I would not doubt that at all. I would not. The guy is very savvy. All right, the guy. So we'll see. We'll see. You know what? You know my stance. I haven't wavered from it once. I'll have to eat a lot of crow, okay, from a lot of different people, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But when Justin, if Justin goes somewhere else and balls out, and we don't, and Caleb doesn't, it's like I said, I've seen enough. The consistency for me was the only issue. But then again, you're not coached well. I mean, you see my shirt, you see what it says. All right, coaching matters. # coaching matters.
Yep.
And because people think CJ Stroud, oh, he's great. Well, guess what? There's a guy behind him who helped him. All right, there's a guy behind Mahomes who helped him. There's a guy behind who's the guy?
Pick anybody, brother.
Pick anyone. Yeah, literally.
Any era.
Pick any, pick any quarterback that you think is good, and you'll see a guy who's behind him who has helped develop him. And he got the raw end of the deal, I should say, short end of the stick. And but again, I'm a Bear fan. I'll root for the Bears. But if they do draft, it seems a little weird because he talks so much about developing through the draft, and he got 3 starters last year from 1 pick in addition to more picks for this year. If you get 3 or 4 starters for this year, that's 7 picks. Like you might end up coming with 8 to 10, maybe even 11 players. That's one side of a ball. That's a whole offense or a whole defense or whole special teams. You know what I mean? And these are all going to be first and second, for the most part, first and second round players. That's how you build a draft. That's how you build a team, through the draft. So we'll see. We'll see how it looks. It doesn't look good for the people who want Fields to stay. Okay, it doesn't look good at all. But then again, like I said, with Ryan Poles, I really would not put it past him because he's putting on a master's class of how to be a GM. Would not put it past him to say, hey, listen, Justin, just to throw everyone off the scent, I need you to do me a favor. Unfollow us on Instagram or social media. And,
Can I piggyback on what Sean's saying there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I agree with Sean. It's like, I'm hoping that there's a part of me that's hoping that this is what Poles is doing, that this is some type of subterfuge, to make us think one way and, kind of what you do, sleight of hand, you're looking over here and I'm doing this over here. And that would be great. And to Sean's other point, it's not so much that I have a disliking for Caleb. It's not even so much that I'm, so much of a fan of Justin. I am a fan of Justin, but it's not so much that I'm wedded to that. I'm more concerned about the Chicago Bears in totality. As a long fan of this sports city, city with the sports teams have been in. I've suffered through many iterations of many different variations of teams, from baseball, basketball, so on and so forth. So I'm looking at this as this is a prime opportunity for the Bears to completely take advantage and reset this legacy, reset this narrative about this franchise, that it's one that should be held to the same heights that the 6-time winning, Steelers and 49ers and now the Patriots. I've seen other teams kind of go past the Bears kicked the Patriots' ass in back in 85 Bears, 86 Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? 46-10. The Patriots have been to how many more Super Bowls to us? They've won how many more? The Chiefs have gone past. So many teams have gone past us, and it doesn't make sense to me why even the Packers have found their own resurgence, and they've established something to where they've been good for the last 3 decades. Why are we not able to do that? We're in a major market, right? We're one of the founding teams, charter franchise in this whole that began the whole league. The Hallis, I mean, we don't even get the Hallis Trophy enough, and Hallis guy was the guy that started. You know what I mean? It's just there's so many things we can do now to reset it. And to Sean's point, polls talk so much about reestablishing the Bears' dominance through building through the draft, and here you have an opportunity to do that collectively for the next 2 years, so where you can get anywhere from you can get top 100 players. You can get on average 5 top 100 players in the next 2 years. You're having 10 players that are top 100 in the next 2 years, and you can double dip like he's been doing, where he's been able to draft positions twice over, so that one guy doesn't work, the other one may, or if however, it gives you a lot more flexibility. Say, for example, anybody here is a homeowner. You know that through home ownership, when you're doing your taxes, you're going to get a refund, right? Okay. Or if you choose to sell your house, you can sell your house and you make some money off of it, but it's an investment. If you're renting an apartment, tax time, you're not getting anything back, right? You can't sell a rental that you have because you're renting it, okay? Same thing when it comes to free agency and or drafting your players. Now, if you go the Caleb route, you're going to have to go into free agency a little bit more than you would, because you don't have the draft pieces per se, okay? With free agents, you're going to overpay a little bit for them, but that's not so much the downside. You factor that going in, but when their contract, and usually those are 3 to 4 year contracts, it's finite. So you need to win within that time that you have that free agent. And if you don't, once that free agent goes, see you later. Conversely, if you have draft picks, just like in the investment in a house, you have draft picks. If for whatever reason, after 4 years is over with, you're not able to re-sign that player and he leaves, you get compensatory picks. And however well that player did will decide how high your compensatory pick is, but it's going to be anywhere from the 3rd round to the 6th round. If you're not able to re-sign that player, but you can still trade them, you get some value. Okay, so, or if this player does work out for you, now you're building your culture and you have your core. And flexibility-wise, fiscally, every year, whatever money you don't spend off your cap, you can roll a percentage of that over. And if you're getting draft picks, basically, your draft picks are going to be anywhere from 15 to maybe 17, 20 million tops with all the picks that you sign. So you're not spending a whole bunch like you would in free agency. That might just be one free agent right there. You get T. Higgins, that's going to cost you $20 million. That could be your whole draft class. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you tier it off. So you know when that money is going to come due and you have to pay them. So you get you a lot more fiscal flexibility, so you can afford to pay your quarterback when they need them. And here's the other thing: people keep acting like the 3-year contract, you like the reset the contract, like it ends now, like you got to start paying Justin now. Like you still got 2 years before you have to really start paying them. And in those 2 years times, under Shane Waldron, he can be developed. I can make all the arguments for why you should keep him, which is why it doesn't make sense to me that you can cut your nose off to spite your face, and then you still deal with the unpredictability of Caleb. And when I say unpredictability, I don't mean to say that he's going to be a bust, that he's going to fall on his face. You don't know how long it's going to take him to develop. You don't know how long it's going to take him to acclimate. You don't know when and how the success is going to be. You don't know how he's going to deal with that adversity. There's a lot of unknowns that you're investing this team into, as opposed to the other things that are coachable, that are fixable with Justin, are still some of the things Caleb had. But we also know these things with Justin: the locker room, the leadership, the ability to survive in the NFL, and he's still a young man. So it's just a weird dynamic to me. I don't quite get it. I think the Bears are going to go Caleb. That's not what I want them to do. I want them to invest in the organization. And I think the quickest way to do that, get your return and build going forward, not just for this year, not for next year, not for just this decade, but into the next decade, is by taking that pick and trading down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the conversations I hear, at least with some rational Bears fans, is like that's one of the things I hear too, is that it's I know, right? Is the fact that with Fields, it seems like a quicker route, right? And I think that even seems it just is, right? With Caleb, you hear a lot of draft analysts talk about how Caleb is not a finished product. He's going to take a few years to develop, as you mentioned as well too, Glenn. So that's one of the things that you tell some Bear fans, and they don't want to hear it because obviously they rather use all that cap space, get free agents and win ASAP. So that's one thing. But Joe, I want to hear your thoughts not only on what Glenn has said, but just in general to the Justin Fields situation. If you put any stock into that.
Glenn, said earlier that there's a lot of nuance to this, and he explained it very eloquently. At the end of the day, not knowing what the Bears are going to do, and many experts believe that the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams first, and that just drives the price up, on that pick if someone wants it. So all of this is, very beneficial to the Bears. And, like Sean, like Glenn, like you, I'm Bears first. I am a Justin Fields fan. I'm pro Justin, but at the same time, I want what's best for the Bears. And for me, it's those 3 first-round picks that everybody keeps talking about. When you look at the amount of blue chip players that you have to have to be a winning team year in and year out, the Bears have so much building to do and so many more pieces to add that that the quarterback alone is not going to fix. And I think that Justin has earned a shot to not with his ability to like you said, to lead in the locker room, with being able to take the punishment and get back up every single time that he has. He's shown the toughness that the city admires and looks for in their players. And I think that if you invest in him and invest in putting pieces around him, I don't think he's going to let the team down. I think I do hear all the the arguments of resetting the quarterback clock and the rookie pay scale and things like that. But you laid it out. Say if you got 10 players that you're only paying $20 million to, versus just one, because you're gonna have to go get free agents. If you draft Caleb, then you're gonna have to go pay for a buy receiver, or you could draft a Dunze or Harrison. Or if you got the 9th pick, you could get a Dunze, Harrison, or Bowers. With those, with those picks, and then you have those players that you have around Justin. So I mean, I'm of the mindset that if you're going to truly build through the draft, you got to stack those picks. But and for me, like I said earlier, I really don't have any clue as to what the Bears are going to do, and I think nobody knowing this, the speculation is just driving the price of the pickup. So,
would you mind, Saul? If you recall, all right, the Dallas Cowboys, all right, had the Herschel Walker trade. It's the unbelievable trade where they fleeced the Minnesota Vikings and got like 847 picks, all right, and all in 1 year. And so they built their team that way because, truth be told, you think about it, was Troy Aikman a generational quarterback? Was Troy Aikman a game changer? I would say no. I'll put it this way: they didn't win because of Troy. That I can say confidently. He was part of the reason they won, but the other part was the offensive line: Eric Williams and Nate Newton and Larry Allen and Mark Stepnowski. Okay, the other part of it was the defensive line. We had Russell Maryland and the dude who Don Beebe kicked out Jones,
Leon
Lett, and think of all, and then the linebackers and the DBs, okay, and some guy named Emmett something or other who turned out to be a pretty good running back, and okay, that was a great team. They had many a battle with the San Francisco 49ers, and if you ask me, quarterback wise, and again, this is no disrespect to Troy Aikman because he isn't in the Hall of Fame, and I think a lot of it had to do with it because of the team winning. Mm-hmm. But I think that Steve Young is a better quarterback than Troy Aikman, and they were able to beat the 49ers because they had a phenomenal team. Hell, they even got rid of their coach. They even got rid of their coach after their second Super Bowl, and were still able to win a Super Bowl because of all the talent that was there. So this is, again, when I see that, and Ryan Poles knows this. He's not averse to history and understanding. That's why I say, well, to me, it doesn't make sense when you can literally build a team and your whole starting 22 is going to be predominantly, except for Braxton Jones, predominantly first and second rounders. And then your depth, it just doesn't make sense. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Like I said, if Ryan Poles comes back and ends up keeping Justin, man, watch
out.
First of all, everyone's going to turn. The Caleb cult is going to turn and start. They're going to go after his head. He should be fired. It's malpractice. Blah 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 blah. Though they're going to. It's unfortunate that they're dividing the fan base. They're the ones who are dividing the fan base, and it's a lot of it seems to be that has the same energy as the politics in the last few years. I'm like, this is football,
right?
Like, this is football, but the arrogance and the condescending way that they speak to, they call you clown. They call people clowns if they're pro-Justin. They call you idiots. I'm like, wait a minute, someone went after Stacey King the other day, like, oh, you're just a basketball player. Football's not your sport. I'm like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you sit there and these people are very emboldened, and like I said, very similar to the political climate. But so, and I wonder what's going to happen if Justin comes back and they don't draft and they trade that pick for a haul. What's going to happen at that particular point? Because I'm cool with it. I said, well, not cool with it. I said, I'm Bears first. I will root for the Bears.
Right.
All right. What about these people who say if they, so it's interesting. But like I said, I digress. The biggest thing the point I wanted to make was the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s. Like, you had guys, they drafted them, and that team was mostly drafted. The only guy they got was Charles Haley, if I'm not mistaken, and Deion Sanders. Now, mind you, those two are big time players, Hall of Famers.
right.
But they won a Super Bowl without Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's interesting. And again, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be a ruse. It could be, as it seems, by having Justin, unfollow him. I don't know.
I'll just say this right quick, and I know you want to move on to some other topics, but I look at the Steelers. Three head coaches in my lifetime. I'm older than all y'all. Yeah. In my lifetime. Okay. I look at the Green Bay Packers, and you all have been around for a majority of that. 3 quarterbacks in the last 30 years. Yeah, look, you look at the Patriots. They were as good as long as Brady was there. Once that person, yeah, they were lucky he was there for 20 years. But once that person's gone, they're drafting third, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And their coach is gone. The Hall of Fame coach is out the door, right? They didn't keep the coach. He was part of that, that whole 20-year winning thing too, and he's gone, right? Sustainability, man. I'm talking about things that can live beyond Poles being here, things that can live beyond Justin. And Justin may or may not be the guy that gets it to the Super Bowl. Look, only one person wins the Super Bowl. Only one team wins the Super Bowl. All right. Mahomes got on lockdown. It's not like anybody else is really this whole rookie contract thing. Who else is that working for? Burrow can't stay healthy. Why can't he stay healthy? Because they can't afford to keep a line around and help him stay healthy. Buffalo, they're already talking about the fact that his contract, he being Josh Allen, the quarterback's contract, is going to take place now. So they're not going to have the money to get other players. Well, okay. Well, I guess, he's supposed to be that kind of guy that he can make up for the differences of the lack of talent around him, right? But they're already talking about how they have to get more talent around him now to help him out. How's that?
Brian Daboll left.
Right.
Brian Daboll left.
Coaching matters. So I'm just saying, you try and build your team so you have more bites at the apple. Right now, I think going the Caleb route, you can get a bite at the apple, but it might just be a bite. I think the route that we're talking about, the sustainability route, you may have various bites at the apple, and nothing's guaranteed once you get into the playoffs. I mean, as many Super Bowls as Brady has won, he could have lost them. For the Super Bowls that Mahomes has won, he was trailing in 2 of them. It's finite. The other things that go into place. And if you look at this last Super Bowl, you can say it's Mahomes, but really Chris Jones and that defense was a big reason.
I was just going to say Spagnuolo. Let's not forget him. Let's not forget Coach Spagnuolo.
And to your point, coaching matters. Spagnuolo has been there the whole time. He hasn't left. So the players know what to do. They can develop, and it's developing your players, which is part of coaching too. So, again, we could talk about this in circles going around, but I just wanted to say, just to tie it into what Sean was saying, with the coaching staff, sustainability, draft picks, why we choose one over the other has nothing to do with the players in particular, more about the situation that we can find the organization to be in, because you're not going to look how well it did just last year. You find yourself in the same situation, maybe you make a trade down with Washington. If that happens and Washington doesn't do well, you got another top 5 pick. But just throwing that out there. But I'm just saying you have an opportunity here to build upon itself, and getting these compensatory picks is what the 49ers have been doing, which is why they've still been able to stay viable all this time. And if Ian Cummings ever leaves because you developed a person of color within your organization, now you have compensatory picks for a couple of years coming through. Something else the 49ers, right? Something else the 49ers have been doing with Salah leaving and DeMeco Ryans leaving and other people leaving as well. So I'm just saying, in the Rams, look what the Rams, they're going to get compensatory picks because of McDonald having left, and now because Raheem just got hired. So they're going to be able to rebuild themselves. So I'm just saying, man, but McVay's been in place. Coaching matters. Situational stuff matters. Take advantage of this opportunity, and I'll stop talking.
You're speaking facts, Glynn. And I think what a lot of people, and kind of what you were talking about with quarterbacks and other success from other teams, it's like a lot of people think, success is linear all the time. It's way different for everybody, and it looks different for everybody, every team. So it's not, it can go a lot of ways, but hopefully it all leads to Bears success. But the last thing on the Bears subject I do want to ask you is Jalen Johnson. Of course, he's one of the bigger questions for the Bears besides the quarterback situation. I know I saw Pro Football Focus release their top 100 free agents. He's ranked at number 9. In your eyes, Glenn, does he deserve the money? Will the Bears pull the trigger? Where do you think the Bears go with that overall?
I'll be real quick with no doubt he deserves the money. And I know he's been consistent as far as being a person who makes plays on the ball. And last year he shows that he can actually, be more of a ball hawk to some degree. So he needs to improve upon that. I believe he will. But that's, again, with Eddie being gone, you need that veteran leadership, someone that the younger players look to and say, if I give my all for this organization, am I going to be treated like Eddie? Am I going to be treated like Jalen? They can maybe understand and explain Eddie away. Jalen would be a much more difficult task because he hasn't really had a down year. And plus he's closer to them in age. But I think with the money that they just freed up, so to speak, by letting Eddie and Whitehair go, you have the money to pay Jalen. There's no reason not to pay him because you have the money. So if you franchise him now, again, you're sending a different kind of message to the locker room. And if you do that and you go beyond Justin, I don't know what culture you're trying to develop here, but it's not going to be one that seems authentic. So to be more authentic, so to speak, and to be less disingenuous in terms of have that perception, you need to pay Eddie. So I believe they're going to, because they need to, if they want to have this culture thing that they said actually develop and take root.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the discussion is not necessarily does he deserve a contract or with the Bears or whatever. I think it's the amount. I think because people are talking about how much he wants, and some people there's a camp of people that say, well, he deserves a contract, but maybe not as much as he thinks he deserves, something like that. There's been seen some people talk about that, but Glenn, you make some good points, especially with how good he's playing. But Joe, I want your opinion in general on that. In where are your thoughts on how much he deserves? Does he deserve the max, like as much as he wants? Or do you see it as a situation where it's fluid for you? Like, you don't, what other opinions do you have on the fact of the Bears and Jalen Johnson?
Listen, you got to pay that man. I mean, we saw the last game of the season when the Bears played Green Bay, how sorely he was missed in that game. And, what the Bears were able to do, defensively had to change so much because he wasn't on the field. I think Jalen Johnson is a guy that has earned his contract. He's improved every year. And I think some of the same reasons that Glynn said. That locker room, has been such a close knit locker room that we've seen throughout the season, and it's easy, for guys to, start getting negative and get down to the dumps when you're losing so much. But to his credit, Eberflus and those guys were able to still come together and finish the season strong still, and Jalen Johnson was a big part of that. Justin was a big part of that, and I think. It's imperative, especially with Eddie being gone, that you bring Jalen Johnson back.
100%. What about you, Sean? Where do you stand on this whole conversation?
I think you got to bring Jalen back. I don't know if you break the bank. All right. He's had one good year of turnovers. All right. Now, if he had been a turnover machine, then I wouldn't have a problem. He had one good year with a couple of interceptions. He even dropped a couple of interceptions this year, which really hurt his cause. I would say we're offering, to offer him third highest, maybe fourth highest. All right. Trust me, he's not going in the wick line anytime soon. You know what I mean? He's going to be good, but I think the fact that he hasn't shown it he's shown over the years that he's okay. But if you're going to pay people, one of the biggest criteria is takeaways and turnovers. Well, he hasn't had that. This was his first year, of doing that. Was it a 1-year wonder? It would happen to be at the right time in contract year, but there's no evidence to show that he can do it. Now, maybe you say he can build on it. I don't know. But I'd say, so you give him second or third highest paid cornerback in the league, I think he's good. But I do think you need to re-sign him. And because the one thing you just can't do, you can't just keep letting good talent walk out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. There's no ifs, ands. You can't. All right. It looks like we're going to let, well, I shouldn't say that. If they let Justin go, that's a lot. That's a talented dude. They traded Roquan. I know he asked to leave, but nonetheless, all right. You let Robert Quinn go. You let Akeem Hicks go. You let Bilal Nichols go. They all think of all the players that they let go, and they're still doing well on other teams. Bilal Nichols is doing well. You know what I mean? You can't let people. You also don't want to get a reputation as an organization that doesn't sign your players. It doesn't sign you when it's time to get paid. You don't want to get that reputation either. We're Chicago. We're not Kansas City. They can't look at the Kansas City Royals. I know it's a different sport, but whenever their players, it's time to they get out of arbitration. They're looking for a big contract. You realize you could probably field a World Series caliber team with all the players that left. What do you mean, Carlos? Oh Jesus! Carlos, the baseball player. All the guys from Kansas City that were let go.
The 2015 World Series.
No, just over the years.
In general. Oh yeah.
You're talking Jermaine Dye. The Carlos kid's gonna annoy me. I can't even think.
Carlos Beltran. You're talking about Carlos Beltran.
Carlos Beltran, yes, Carlos Beltran.
Yeah.
Think of all the pictures they had. It's like, so we can't get that reputation of when it's time to get paid. Well, they ship you off. They trade you, and because that means no one's gonna want to come here, for anything. So, JJ, they got to sign. They do have to sign Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sean, and that's how it is. When I try to tell, especially with what the Bears are doing and what they have been doing with certain players, when they want to get paid, they're leaving. It's like that's honestly how some soccer teams are. Like some teams that are don't have a lot of money, like the Real Madrids or Barcelonas. Like when their players are top of the notch and everybody wants them, they're going to leave probably because your team can't afford it. So yeah, you really don't want to set the culture like that and have the Bears do that. But I do want to get to one more thing. Glynn, we're going to have you on again before the draft. So we'll talk Bears. We'll preview the Bears draft and then after analyze what the Bears do, because that's for sure. We'll definitely talk more Bears. But the last thing I want to get to is, of course, after the Super Bowl, I saw some people, saying the GOAT conversation's already over, and if it isn't, it's on its way to being over. How do you guys see it in your guys' eyes? Mahomes and Brady, are different, in general, different types of quarterbacks. But in your eyes, is the conversation either over, heading to be over? I mean, how do you see that in your eyes? We'll start with you, Glenn.
It's definitely not over. But it is a conversation, and that's fine, and that's where we're at. I mean, you got a guy played for 20 years. The other guy just finished his 6th year. So I mean, you know, that's 1/3 of it. So I mean, everyone is so into the moment, and people have forgotten about Dan Marino. They've forgotten about Terry Bradshaw. They've forgotten about Roger Staubach. It's just giving a beat. Let the guy play his career. Mahomes is physically, obviously, a lot better at the quarterbacking position with his physical attributes than Brady. But Brady also was at a doctorate's level when it came to being able to manipulate things on the football field pre-snap, getting people in place ahead of time. And I think Brady proved that even more so when he took his doctoral degree to Tampa Bay and won in his first year there. So he eschewed being under the same system, being under the same coaching staff, all that stuff. That's how you know, like, that dude is at a different level. I'm not saying you can't go to a different team. Other quarterbacks haven't and won. They have. But the way he did it was unique to his situation. So Mahomes is great. We'll find out how much more great he is as a quarterback once Reed retires.
Bingo.
And then that's when I think you can really start making more of a apples to apples comparison as opposed to an apples to banana comparison right now. Because if you make an apples to banana comparison, you're probably going to slip on the peel.
Or fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
Oh, in the tailpipe, you know, which is a whole different thing altogether.
Right.
What about you, Sean? Where do you stand on this? Because I know, like I said, after, like, I'm telling you, I saw some. So, like, and Glenn, I did see that. Like, I swear, on Twitter there was like some people saying, "Hey, it's over. Like, Mahomes is the GOAT," and you're right on that. Like, people, people are so in the moment. Like, you know, every player is the greatest player of all time. Like, especially just the phrase in general, it's overused. But Sean, where do you stand on the whole situation with the GOAT and Mahomes and Brady?
Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is guaranteed to pass Jack. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay. This conversation shouldn't even be started yet. All right. He's finished his 7th year. He's won 3 Super Bowls. All right. How much longer does Andy Reid want to coach? How much longer can he coach? All right. You're getting up there in age. You got 3 Super Bowls. You don't need to prove anything else. All right. When your head coach leaves, things change. Or when the play caller leaves, things change. We just talked about Josh Allen in Buffalo. All right, we're going to see when things change. Not this year, because Bobby Slowick's back in with Houston. Okay, so CJ Stroud should have a much better year. All right, what's going to happen when he leaves next year and gets the head coach and give? What about Ben Johnson when he leaves? Is Jared Goff going to revert back to Jared Goff? All right, so no, he's 1-3, wonderful, amazing in the short amount of time. There's a long time. He's got 4 more to go. 4 more to go. And, you know, there's so many different things that can happen. Your left tackle can be out. Your center can be out. Your wide receiver can be out. There's so many different things. Your tight end, whole bunch of things. So, and people nowadays, especially this younger generation, you know, everyone's a GOAT. Everyone, they have a good game. He's a GOAT. Like, he had 1 game. You had a good season. He's a GOAT. That's 1 season. Like, you know, it's everyone wants to be. Everyone's into these hot takes and these you know, they want the shock value, and the hyperbole is just through the roof. So as good as that as Mahomes has been, and he's been great, he's still not at Tom's level. He still doesn't have 7. You know, he's still not the best yet. And I'm not saying he can't be the best or he won't be the best. I'm saying you have to let, like Glenn said, you got to let his career play out and see how many, if he can get there. Because, you know, the one thing about Brady, he had this pretty much the same system, same head coach, and every offensive coordinator who when they left, that system was still in place. And at some particular point, Tom was just like, well, I'm the system because I'm going to run it. I'm going to run what I want to run. I've been in the system long enough. You're literally an OC in title only. So, you know, will Patrick Mahomes get to that level? Possibly, but he's got 3. And I don't mean this to diminish it by saying only 3, but he's got 3.
Right.
All right, he's got 3. Tom's got 7. Tom's got 7. That's a lot. That's a lot That's a huge thing. And what about Mahomes? Let's not get it twisted. Mahomes can get hurt. Mahomes could. I mean, this is NFL means not for long. Football is a violent game, and of course, I'm not wishing any ill will or anything bad to happen to him. But every time you step on the field, something bad can happen. Okay, there's a whole bunch of things that have to go right in the next 7 to 10 years. Plus, does he want to play that long? You know, these younger athletes, they've seen all the concussion. They've seen the CTE. They've seen that. This dude's got a $500 million contract. You think he wants to play with his kids? Some people may want to take quality of life over going after that record. We don't know. You know, he's part owner of the Kansas City Royals. All right, maybe he'll start paying the players, but he's a part owner of the Kansas City Royals, part owner of the Kansas City Football Club. You know, how much longer does he want to play? We'll see.
Yeah, how much longer does he want to play? You got to factor that in too.
Yeah, that goes to show some players, like Andrew Luck, obviously Luke Kuechly, like those guys, obviously, chose themselves, their bodies, their life.
No, their mind.
Yeah,
their mind.
Oh, their mind. Yeah, in general, yeah, man, 100%. Joe, what about you, man? Where do you stand on this whole GOAT conversation and after the Super Bowl?
I mean, death taxes and Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Like Sean said, Tom Brady played well into his 40s at a very high level, and Patrick Mahomes hasn't really even scratched the surface yet. So, I mean, it's not really a discussion.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's like that, like Sean said, the younger generation and what they, you see one dude, and most of the time I feel like it's like a joke, like everybody's the GOAT, whatever. But some people are serious, and some people are saying certain things about Mahomes right now and all that. But it's gonna be an interesting conversation, and so many things that are going down after the Super Bowl have been interesting. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this edition of the Bears Den. I want to thank our special guest today, Glynn Morgan, for joining us, of course. And like I said, we'll have you on, Glynn. We're going to have you on either before the draft or after the draft. Got to figure something out so that way we can talk all about that and what the Bears might do, as well as the rest of the league. Because I think, in general, it's going to be a fun show anyways. But
hey,
appreciate you coming on, man.
I'm going to tell you this right now. If Justin's gone, I don't even ask me to be on the show. I can't be on the show if Justin. I'm going to be in my feelings. And I can't be responsible. I got, can't be responsible for what I say. The internet never loses.
Glynn, you can come on and you're anonymous. We'll leave your screen off and we'll be like, we have an anonymous caller.
Michael Vick fights the dog. Michael Vick fights the dog.
No, but thanks for coming on, Glynn. It means a lot. Appreciate you. And we'll have you on again. I want to thank Sean Sierra as well. And, of course, Joe Tanksley. Watch all our other coverage on either SportsZone Chicago and WARR Media. For Saul Rodriguez and the Bears Den. Hopefully everybody has a great week, and we'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Peace.